The night was quiet in the small mountain village of Longxi. The air was cold, the streets empty, and the only sound was the wind moving through the old bamboo trees. The village slept under a pale red moon that hung lower than usual, its strange color reflecting off the lake beside the mountain. Deep inside one of the small wooden houses, a young woman named Maylin tossed and turned in her sleep. Her dreams were not peaceful. She heard whispers, soft, ancient voices speaking a language she did not know, but somehow could understand. The whispers called her name again and again, as if something was searching for her in the dark. Suddenly, Maylin's eyes opened wide. She gasped and sat up in her bed, her breath shaking, her body cold with fear. The room was dark except for a faint red glow coming from her hand. She looked down and froze. There, on the center of her palm, a small blood-red mark had appeared, shaped like a circle with strange lines crossing through it. It looked alive. The mark pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing brighter every few seconds, and she felt a burning pain spreading through her arm. She tried to wash it off, rubbing her skin with water, with soap, with even a knife, but the mark would not fade. It was not drawn. It was inside her skin. Terrified, she ran outside into the cold night air. Her neighbors woke up, alarmed by her screams. Old women came out with lanterns, and men grabbed their sticks and tools, thinking maybe a wild animal had attacked. But when they saw the glowing red light coming from her hand, they stepped back in fear. One old man whispered that he had seen such a mark once before, many years ago, when the skies turned red and the earth trembled. He said it was a curse, a sign from the old gods who punished those who disturbed the balance of the world. Others believed it was a disease. No one dared to touch her. Maylin tried to speak, to ask for help, but her voice trembled too much. "It just appeared," she whispered. "It hurts. It's burning inside me." Her mother cried, trying to hold her, but the moment her mother's fingers touched her arm, a spark of red light flashed and threw her back as if struck by lightning. The villagers screamed and ran for safety, some shouting to call the monk from the temple, others saying she should be locked away before the curse spread. The next morning, the village was silent again. No one came near Maylin's house. People watched from a distance as smoke rose from her chimney, whispering that she had angered the spirits. But inside, Maylin sat alone, trembling. She had wrapped her hand with a cloth, but still the red light shone through. The pain was gone now, replaced by a strange warmth that made her heart beat fast. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw images, flashes of cities burning, shadows walking under red skies, and a massive shape rising from the earth. Each vision felt real, as if she was seeing another world. By nightfall, she decided she could not stay in the village anymore. The people she grew up with looked at her like a monster, and even her mother avoided her eyes. So, with the little courage she had left, Maylin packed a small bag, took a lantern, and began walking toward the old forest that surrounded the village. The villagers always said the forest was cursed, full of ancient spirits and forbidden ruins from the time before humans ruled. But something inside her pulled her there. The mark on her palm grew warm, almost guiding her like a compass pointing to something hidden in the dark. As she entered the forest, the air grew thicker and colder. The trees seemed older than time, their branches twisted like arms reaching for the sky. Mist rolled over the ground, glowing faintly red under the strange moonlight. Maylin felt the mark burning again, stronger now. Her heartbeat matched the pulsing light from her hand. She followed the feeling until she reached a clearing where an old stone gate stood, half buried in the earth. Symbols were carved across it, the same shape as her mark. She touched the cold surface, and the carvings began to glow. A deep vibration filled the air. The earth trembled softly. The gate cracked open, releasing a breath of warm air that smelled like metal and dust. Maylin hesitated, fear rising in her chest, but curiosity was stronger. She stepped inside and found herself standing in a massive underground chamber. Ancient pillars rose around her, covered in glowing red veins that seemed alive. In the center stood a round pool filled with dark liquid blood, or something that looked like it. The air hummed with energy. It felt like the place itself was watching her. Suddenly, she heard a voice. It was soft but clear, echoing from everywhere at once. "You carry our mark," it said. "You have been chosen." Maylin spun around, but there was no one there. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice shaking. "Why me?" The voice replied, "Because you are the last of our line. The blood remembers. The heart awakens." The pool began to ripple as if something beneath it was moving. Maylin's fear turned into panic. She tried to run back to the gate, but it had already sealed shut behind her. She pressed her glowing hand against the stone, desperate to escape. The mark on her palm flashed brighter and brighter until the entire chamber lit up. Then silence. For a moment, she could only hear her own breathing. Slowly, the red light faded, and the gate opened again. Maylin stumbled out, gasping for air. The forest was quiet again, but the moon above was now completely red. She looked at her hand. The mark had changed. The lines had shifted, now forming the shape of an eye. She could feel it watching. Back in the village, strange things began to happen. Chickens refused to eat. Dogs howled all night facing the forest. The lake water turned dark and thick like blood. People started to pack their belongings, preparing to flee. But before anyone could leave, the sky cracked open with thunder, though there were no clouds. A red beam of light shot down from the sky for just a moment, touching the top of the mountain, and then vanished. That night, Maylin sat near the forest's edge, her face pale, her eyes full of fear. She had tried to wash away the mark again, but the more she rubbed, the brighter it became. It didn't hurt anymore, but she could feel something else. A heartbeat that wasn't hers. Every few seconds, it thumped softly under her skin, echoing deep in her chest. It felt like someone or something was alive inside her hand. She tried to sleep but couldn't. The voice returned, softer this time, almost gentle. "Do not fear," it whispered. "You are only awakening." Her heart raced. "Awakening what?" she asked out loud, trembling. The voice did not answer. Instead, the wind began to rise, carrying the faint sound of chanting, like hundreds of people whispering in the distance. She looked around, but there was no one there. Only the red glow of her hand lighting up her face. In the corner of her eye, she saw her reflection in a puddle of water. It was still her, but when she blinked, her reflection didn't. It smiled instead. Maylin stumbled back in shock, her breathing sharp. She covered her face, shaking her head. "This isn't real," she whispered. But when she looked again, the reflection was gone. Only the dark, still water remained. She sat there in silence, the forest around her eerily quiet. The red moon watched from above, casting long shadows that moved even when the wind was still. Deep in her heart, Maylin knew one thing. Whatever this mark was, it had chosen her. And whatever had awakened tonight was not done with her yet. The next morning came with heavy fog covering the mountains. The sun tried to rise, but the red mist hung thick in the air, turning daylight into a strange crimson glow. The villagers of Longxi were gone. Most had fled during the night, carrying their families away from what they called the Cursed Valley. Only a few remained behind, hiding in their houses, too old or too afraid to leave. The once busy village now felt like a ghost town. Maylin stood near the edge of the forest, watching the silent houses. Smoke still rose from a few chimneys, but no one came out. Her heart was heavy. She didn't blame them. She wouldn't have stayed either, not after what she had seen. The mark on her hand had stopped burning, but it still pulsed with a dull red light, like something sleeping beneath her skin. Every few moments, she felt it twitch, as if responding to something deep underground. She wrapped her palm with cloth again and turned her eyes toward the mountains. Somewhere in that forest was the temple the elders had always warned about, the Temple of Crimson Light. She had to find it. She didn't know why, but something inside her whispered that the answers waited there. She began walking into the forest, following the same trail she had taken the night before. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches like bones stretching over her head. The air smelled of wet earth and something faintly metallic. As she moved deeper, the sound of the world seemed to fade away. Even the birds were silent. Only her footsteps and her heartbeat echoed softly through the mist. Hours passed. The forest grew darker. Strange symbols began to appear carved into the tree trunks, the same circular patterns as the mark on her hand. The sight of them made her feel uneasy, but also connected, as if the forest itself knew her. Then she heard footsteps, not hers. Someone was following. She turned quickly, her heart racing, eyes scanning the mist. A shadow moved behind the trees, tall, calm, walking slowly. Maylin backed away, her hand glowing slightly through the cloth. The voice of an old memory whispered in her mind, "Do not trust the ones who walk quietly." She picked up a stick from the ground and held it tight, pretending to be brave. Then a man stepped out from the fog. He looked around 30, wearing a long dark coat covered in dust, with a strange silver symbol hanging around his neck. His eyes were sharp and calm. He raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "The temple is forbidden for a reason." "Who are you?" Maylin asked, not lowering the stick. "My name is Li Shen," he said. "I'm from the Order of the Marked. We've been watching this place for years. The mark on your hand, it's not just a curse. It's a signal." Maylin frowned. "A signal? For what?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "For them. For what's coming back." His words made her stomach twist. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. Li Shen looked toward the mountain peaks barely visible through the fog. Long before humans built these villages, this land belonged to something else. Something that came from beyond the stars. They called them the Crimson Ones, beings of living blood and light. They ruled over men like gods. Then, one day, they vanished, leaving only marks like yours. Every few centuries, when the sky turns red, the mark returns. And every time, it means the gate is opening again. Maylin didn't believe him. She shook her head. "No, that's a story. Just old superstition." Li Shen stepped closer. "Then why did your mark appear last night? Why did the forest awaken? Why does your blood glow?" She wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Deep inside, she already knew he was right. The dreams, the voices, the light, they weren't random. They were calling her. "Come with me," Li Shen said. "If we reach the temple before nightfall, maybe we can stop what's coming. If we fail, then this world will see the same fire the old world saw." Maylin hesitated. Trusting a stranger in a cursed forest felt dangerous. But what choice did she have? She nodded slowly. "All right, show me." They moved deeper into the woods, the air growing colder with every step. The fog began to glow faintly red. Strange stones covered with symbols rose from the ground, forming a path that led to an enormous stone archway. Beyond it stood the ruins of a vast temple, its walls cracked and overgrown with vines. The pillars were carved with figures, tall, thin creatures with hollow eyes, holding orbs of light in their hands. "This is it," Li Shen whispered. "The Temple of Crimson Light." Maylin felt her heart race. The mark on her hand began to glow again, brighter than ever. It pulsed faster and faster until it matched the rhythm of her heartbeat. As she stepped closer, the air around her vibrated, like something deep underground was waking up. They entered the temple. The air was heavy and warm. The walls seemed alive, faint red veins running through the stone like living tissue. Maylin touched one of the carvings, and her mark responded, shining brighter. The walls lit up, one by one, until the entire hall was glowing red. At the center stood a large stone tablet covered in strange writing. Li Shen approached it and began brushing the dust away. "These symbols," he said softly, "they speak of the return of the blood. It says the chosen will carry the heart of the stars. Their blood will open the gate." He turned to her, his face pale. "Maylin, I think you're the chosen one." Her heart pounded. "Chosen for what?" "To awaken them," he said. "Or to stop them. The mark can do either, but once it starts, it cannot be undone." Before she could reply, the ground trembled. The temple walls shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. A deep rumbling echoed from the earth below. The red veins in the walls began to throb like arteries, glowing brighter with each pulse. Li Xin grabbed her arm. "We have to leave. Now." But Mei Lin couldn't move. Her body froze. The mark on her hand burned with unbearable heat, and red light shot out of it, striking the stone tablet. The symbols on it came alive, swirling and shifting. The tablet cracked open, revealing a hollow space inside, and within it, a glowing orb of liquid light, red like living blood. The voice returned, louder now, filling her mind. "You found us. The heart remembers you." Li Xin shouted her name, trying to pull her away, but it was too late. The orb exploded with energy, sending a wave of red light through the temple. Everything around them turned silent and weightless. For a few seconds, time itself seemed to stop. When the light faded, they were outside again. The sky above the mountains had turned completely crimson. Red lightning crawled through the clouds like veins across the heavens. The ground still trembled beneath their feet. Li Xin looked up in horror. "It's too late," he whispered. "The signal is sent." Mei Lin stared at her hand. The mark had changed again. The circle had opened, forming a spiral that seemed to spin slowly on her skin. She could feel something far above the sky answering her mark, something massive and alive. "What did I do?" she whispered, tears filling her eyes. Li Xin looked at her with sadness. "You didn't do it alone. It was always meant to happen. You just woke it up." A flash of light filled the horizon. The clouds above them began to twist into a vortex of red and black, and for a brief moment, Mei Lin saw a shape moving inside the storm. Enormous, ancient, like a creature made of blood and smoke turning its gaze toward Earth. She fell to her knees, trembling. The world around her had changed. The air felt heavier, alive with something unnatural. The mark on her hand pulsed faster, as if excited. Far in the distance, across the mountains, sirens began to wail. The world had noticed the sky, but no one yet knew what had truly awakened. Mei Lin stared at the sky in silent terror. The red storm raged above, and for the first time she felt something cold and real, the sense that humanity had just been seen. The red storm didn't end. It hovered above the mountains for 3 full days, spreading wider with every passing hour. Lightning flashed inside the clouds, but there was no sound, no thunder, only silence. The people of nearby towns watched in fear as the sky bled red and the rivers turned dark. The government sent drones and helicopters to study it, but half of them never returned. Those that did sent back strange, flickering images of red mist moving like living things in the air. Scientists said it was a weather anomaly. The military said it was classified. But deep in the heart of the mountains, Mei Lin and Li Xin knew it was neither. Something ancient had awakened. They hid in a small cave near the temple ruins. Mei Lin sat near the fire, staring at her hand. The mark glowed softly under her skin, no longer painful, but alive, pulsing like a second heartbeat. It felt warm, sometimes even comforting, like a voice whispering from her blood. She didn't tell Li Xin, but she could hear faint whispers every night when she closed her eyes. They didn't speak in words, but in emotions. Hunger, sadness, remembrance. Felt like something inside her wanted to be born. Li Xin sat across from her, sharpening a blade with a flat stone. His face looked tired, older than before. The firelight reflected in his dark eyes. "It's spreading," he said quietly. "The energy you released from the temple. It's moving through the ground. The rivers, the air, even the animals. I saw birds falling from the sky, their eyes glowing red before they turned to ash." Mei Lin hugged her knees, her voice small. "I didn't mean for this to happen." He sighed. "I know, but it's not your fault alone. The mark chose you for a reason." He hesitated, his hand tightening around the knife. "I need to tell you something. The Order of the Marked, we were created to stop this from ever happening again. For centuries, we guarded the old ruins, erased signs of the blood marks, destroyed the people who carried them. But this time, we were too late." Mei Lin's eyes widened. "You destroyed them? People like me?" "Yes," he said quietly. "But not because we hated them. Because when the mark awakens, It connects to the heart below, the core of what lies sleeping under our world. And every time it connects, something wakes up. She shivered. Something like what we saw in the clouds? He nodded slowly. That was only a shadow, a reflection. The real thing hasn't reached us yet, but it's coming. Outside the cave, the sky glowed faint red even during daylight. Animals had disappeared from the forests, and strange patterns formed in the soil, circles that matched Maylene's mark exactly. Helicopters passed overhead at night, and the ground sometimes hummed like a giant machine was buried beneath it. The world was beginning to notice the change. On the fourth day, soldiers arrived in the valley. Maylene and Li Xin watched from the forest as a column of trucks and armored vehicles rolled into the area. Scientists in white suits set up equipment and strange towers that glowed with blue lights. One of them shouted orders. No one goes near the epicenter. Radiation levels are unstable. But there was no radiation. It was the pulse, the living energy of the blood mark spreading through the earth. When the soldiers reached the ruined temple, the ground trembled again. Their instruments began to fail one by one. Radios went silent. Lights flickered. A soldier approached the broken gate and touched the stone wall. His scream echoed through the valley as his hand turned red and dissolved into dust. The others opened fire, bullets hitting nothing but air. The red mist swallowed them whole. From the forest edge, Maylene fell to her knees, clutching her hand. The mark was burning again. It's calling me, she said in pain. It wants me to come back. Li Xin grabbed her shoulders. You can't. Every time you get closer, it grows stronger. Tears filled her eyes. But if I don't, it'll keep spreading. People will die. He looked at her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Then we end it together. That night, under the red sky, they made their way back to the temple. The soldiers were gone. Only their empty gear remained, scattered in the dust. The entrance of the temple had changed. It was no longer just stone. It looked like flesh now, living, breathing, the walls moving slightly as if something behind them was breathing. The red veins pulsed brighter when Maylene approached. She touched the entrance. It's alive, she whispered. Li Xin's voice was calm but tense. No, it's waking. As they entered, the air inside was warm and thick. The walls glistened with wet light, and a deep hum filled the chamber. The markings had spread across every surface, like veins reaching for something. In the center of the hall, where the orb had once floated, now stood a column of red crystal beating like a heart. Every pulse shook the ground. Maylene felt it inside her chest. Her heartbeat and the crystals were one. The voice returned, clearer than ever. Child of the blood, we remember you. She closed her eyes, tears rolling down her face. Who are you? What do you want from me? The voice seemed to echo through her bones. We are the first, the ones who built your kind. Your blood is our memory. The mark is the key. Li Xin's hand moved to his weapon. Don't listen to it. It's not a god. It's a parasite. It used humanity to survive. But the voice only grew stronger. We gave you form, gave you breath, gave you the gift of blood. Now you will open the gate, and we will rise again. Maylene shook her head, her voice trembling. No, you're not coming back. You destroyed everything before. The temple shook violently, cracks splitting the floor. From the walls, shapes began to form, human-like but twisted. Their skin glowed red, their eyes hollow. They moved toward her slowly, whispering her name. Li Xin drew his weapon and fired. The bullets went through their bodies like mist, but the creatures didn't stop. They reached for Maylene, their touch freezing her skin. We are your kin, they whispered. You are one of us. Maylene screamed and fell to her knees. The mark on her hand shone like fire, sending a burst of light that threw the creatures backward. The light also hit the red heart in the center of the room, and for a moment, everything went still. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing somewhere else. A vast plain of glowing red sand under a black sky full of stars. Towers made of crystal rose in the distance, and rivers of light flowed between them. It was beautiful and terrifying. Voices whispered all around her, thousands of them, calling her name in harmony. "You are the bridge," they said. "The link between blood and stars." Mei Lin clutched her chest, gasping. "No, I'm just a person. I don't want this." A deep rumble echoed through the air. The sky above cracked open, revealing a massive shape moving behind the stars. A creature the size of mountains, made of light and shadow, with countless eyes watching her. "Then you will learn," it said, its voice like thunder. "Because what sleeps beneath your world is us." Suddenly, she was back in the temple, screaming. Li Shun was shaking her. "Wake up, Mei Lin!" The walls were collapsing, red dust falling everywhere. They ran out as the entire structure began to sink into the ground. Behind them, the mountains split open, a massive beam of red light shooting into the sky. They stopped at a cliff, panting, staring as the light pierced the clouds. The storm above swirled faster, and from within the clouds, a deep sound echoed, like a heartbeat the size of the world. Li Shun whispered, "It's not just this place. Look." In the distance, beyond the mountains, other red beams of light were rising, from other parts of the land, from deserts, from seas. The marks were not unique. There were others. Mei Lin fell to her knees, her mark burning like fire. "It's happening everywhere." Li Shun's face was pale. "The awakening has begun." Ending scene. As the camera pulls back, dozens of red lights can be seen across the earth, like glowing wounds in the planet's skin. The ancient blood has returned. Humanity doesn't know it yet, but the world they knew is already gone. The world changed after that night. People across China and soon across the entire planet saw the same thing. Red lights in the sky. They rose from mountains, oceans, deserts, and deep jungles, pulsing slowly like living hearts. Scientists gave them names: crimson anomalies, bioluminal rifts, geothermal events. But the people called them something simpler: the blood towers. Governments sent armies to study them, to contain them, to destroy them, but nothing worked. The towers could not be touched. Anyone who approached too closely vanished in red mist. Drones sent near them stopped responding, their metal shells melting as if exposed to something not of this world. Entire regions were declared off-limits. People fled cities that glowed red at night. But still, the light kept spreading. A slow, steady heartbeat moving through the veins of the planet. In a forgotten corner of the mountains, Mei Lin and Li Shun watched everything unfold from an abandoned observatory. The power was gone, but they had old maps, radio scanners, and what little food remained. The mark on Mei Lin's hand had grown. Thin red lines now reached up her wrist and across her arm like branches of a tree. It no longer hurt. It pulsed softly, in rhythm with the distant towers. She sat by the window, staring at the valley below. The rivers there no longer looked blue. They glowed faintly red, like liquid light flowing through the earth. She whispered, "It's alive, Li Shun. The ground, the rivers, it's all connected." Li Shun stood behind her, adjusting the old radio. "Yes," he said, his voice heavy. "The planet's reacting. Whatever those things are, they're feeding off it or awakening it. The Earth's magnetic field is changing. Storms are forming over the poles. Even the moonlight looks different now." She turned toward him, her eyes reflecting the red glow outside. "You said there were others like me, marked people." He nodded slowly. "There are. The Order kept records. We found them before, men and women born with strange blood. Most didn't survive, but some disappeared. Now I think they've been called, just like you." "Called for what?" "To become what comes next," he said quietly. "To become part of the awakening." For a long time, silence filled the room. Only the faint hum of the radio echoed softly in the dark. Then the signal crackled to life. A broken transmission, half static, half voice. "Emergency broadcast. Regions under quarantine. Life forms unknown origin repeat. Do not approach the red zones." The voice faded, replaced by strange static that didn't sound human. It almost sounded like whispering. Mei Lin felt her skin crawl. The mark on her hand began to glow brighter as if answering the sound. "They're speaking," she said softly. The same whispers from my dreams. Li Shin grabbed the radio and turned it off. Don't listen. It's not for us. But it was too late. The voice was already inside her head. A deep, slow rhythm pulsing through her thoughts. The blood remembers. The seed awakens. The heart returns. She clutched her head, trembling. It's everywhere now. I can feel them moving beneath the ground. Outside, thunder rolled, but the sky was clear. The mountains began to vibrate. Not violently, but steadily, as if something massive was breathing below them. The air shimmered faintly, and the trees near the valley began to change color. Their leaves turning dark red, their roots glowing faintly in the soil. The animals had already fled. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. Mei Lin stood slowly. They're not just coming back, she said. They're changing everything, the air, the water, the ground. It's like the world itself is turning into them. Li Shin walked to the window, his jaw tight. Then we stop it before it reaches the core. There's a place beneath us, the old archives called it the blood core. It's the heart of all the marks, buried deep under the earth. If we can reach it, maybe we can shut it down. Mei Lin looked doubtful. And if we can't? He met her eyes. Then we'll see what humanity becomes. That night, they left the observatory and began their journey toward the mountains again. The forest was not the same. The trees had grown unnaturally tall, their bark hard as metal, their branches glowing with faint veins of light. The ground pulsed beneath their feet, soft and warm, as though the earth had begun to breathe. Every few steps, Mei Lin saw faces in the mist, pale, silent figures standing between the trees, watching her. Some looked human, some didn't. She tried to ignore them, but the whispers followed her. You belong to us. You are our bridge. The blood will rise. By morning, they reached the valley near the river, or what used to be a river. The water now moved like liquid glass, thick and shimmering, glowing faintly from within. Small shapes swam inside it, not fish but red, floating forms that looked like veins twisting and growing. Li Shin crouched beside the bank, staring at the strange light. The infection's spreading faster than I thought. Infection? She asked. He looked up, his face pale. It's not just energy, Mei Lin. It's blood, living matter, spreading like roots through everything it touches. It's rewriting life itself. Before she could reply, a loud noise echoed behind them. They turned and froze. 3 figures were walking out of the mist. At first they looked human, dressed in tattered military uniforms. But as they stepped closer, Mei Lin saw their skin glowing faint red under the surface. Their eyes were blank, their veins visible through their flesh like burning lines. Li Shin raised his weapon. Stay back. The figures didn't stop. One of them spoke, its voice soft and hollow. You can't stop the blood. We are already home. They moved faster, unnaturally fast. Li Shin fired. The bullets tore through them, but the bodies reformed instantly, red light sealing the wounds. One reached for Mei Lin, grabbing her arm. The moment its skin touched hers, the mark on her hand exploded in light, throwing all 3 creatures backward. When the light faded, the creatures were gone. Only red ash remained. Li Shin looked at her, breathing hard. They're transforming. Ordinary humans can't survive the signal. Their bodies are rewriting themselves. Mei Lin stared at her glowing hand. Then what am I becoming? He didn't answer. As night fell again, they took shelter inside an old tunnel left from a mining site. The air smelled of rust and earth. Li Shin drew a rough map on the wall using charcoal. This tunnel should lead to the lower chambers, he said. If the old texts were right, the blood core is directly beneath the mountains, maybe miles deep. Mei Lin sat beside him, tired and scared. You've known about this your whole life, haven't you? Yes, he said after a pause. Since I was a child, they trained us to fear the mark, to erase all trace of it. But now that it's here, I think we were never meant to stop it, only to delay it. She turned toward him. And if this core awakens fully? He looked down. Then the planet becomes theirs again. Silence followed, deep and heavy. The air in the tunnel vibrated faintly, as if the earth itself was humming. Mei Lin could feel her heartbeat merging with it. She placed her hand on the stone wall. It was warm, and from deep below, she felt another pulse answer her touch, slow, ancient, alive. "It's close," she whispered. "It's waiting for me." Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Rocks fell from the ceiling, dust filling the air. A roar echoed from below. Not mechanical, not natural, but alive, deep and endless. Mei Lin fell to her knees, clutching her glowing hand. The mark burned brighter than ever. Li Shan shouted over the noise. "What's happening?" Mei Lin's voice was barely a whisper. "It's speaking again." The voice inside her mind thundered, louder than before. "You are the key. The gate is almost open. Let the blood rise." And then silence. The shaking stopped. The air stilled. When Mei Lin looked around, Li Shan was staring at her with wide eyes. He pointed toward the tunnel wall. "Look!" The stone was cracking open. From inside the cracks, red light leaked out like liquid. And within the light, faint shapes moved, like veins growing through rock. Mei Lin stood slowly, her heart pounding. "It's coming through the earth now." Li Shan loaded his weapon again, though he knew it would do nothing. "Then we're running out of time." As they moved deeper into the tunnel, the red light behind them spread faster, crawling like fire. The world above was already changing. Across continents, the red towers pulsed in unison. The oceans glowed faintly in the night, and from the skies the stars seemed dimmer, as if even they were afraid to watch. As Mei Lin and Li Shan disappear into the darkness of the tunnel, the earth above them pulses once more. A massive red wave racing through mountains and rivers. From space, Earth no longer looks blue. It shines faint crimson, like a living heart beating in the void. The tunnel stretched for miles into the deep earth, twisting like the veins of some ancient beast. The air grew hotter the farther Mei Lin and Li Shan went, and the faint red glow around them became brighter, until it no longer felt like light, but like blood running through the stone itself. Every surface pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of Mei Lin's heartbeat. They had been walking for hours, but time no longer felt real. There was no sky, no sun, no sound except the steady pulse and the soft echo of their footsteps. Mei Lin could barely feel her body anymore. The mark on her arm now reached all the way to her shoulder, glowing faintly through her clothes. It didn't hurt now, it felt natural, as if it had always been a part of her. Li Shan walked beside her, his face pale under the red light. "We're close," he said quietly. "Can you feel it?" Mei Lin nodded. "It's calling me." The tunnel opened suddenly into a massive cavern, so wide that its edges vanished in darkness. At the center stood something that defied description. A gigantic heart made of light and stone, suspended in midair, pumping slowly with waves of red energy. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't alive. It was something in between, the blood core. Around it floated shards of crystal, each one showing visions of the past. Humans, cities, wars, and strange symbols written in blood. The air vibrated with whispers, 1,000 voices speaking as one. Li Shan stepped forward, shielding his eyes. "So it's true. The planet has a heart." Mei Lin stared in awe. "No, this isn't the planet's heart. This is what came before it." She moved closer, drawn by invisible threads. As she approached, the whispers grew louder, clearer. "Child of the mark, the blood remembers you." She stopped and looked back at Li Shan. "They know me." He nodded slowly. "Maybe you're one of them, or maybe you're the bridge between us." Before she could speak, the core pulsed violently, sending a shockwave through the cavern. Li Shan fell to his knees, clutching his head as the ground trembled. From the walls, red veins erupted outward, growing and twisting like living roots. They crawled across the floor, surrounding Mei Lin, but never touching her. She raised her glowing hand. "Stop!" she shouted. But the voice that came out wasn't fully hers. It was layered with something ancient, deeper, almost divine. The roots froze. Then the core spoke, not with sound, but directly into her mind. "You carry the first blood. The world you know was built on what we left behind. The human race was born from our fall. Maylene's heart pounded. What do you mean? We're your children. Fragments, the voice said. The last echoes of our essence, trapped in your species. But now the seed awakens. The blood remembers its form. Li Xin staggered to his feet. You can't take her, he shouted, raising his weapon at the glowing heart. She's human. The core's light flared. She is both, the beginning and the end. Maylin turned toward him, her eyes shining like molten gold now. Li Xin, I can see everything. The towers, the rivers, the sky. It's all connected. They're not invading. They're remembering themselves. The earth was never just ours. We're the continuation of something far older. He shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. Then fight it, Maylin. You're not a god. You're not them. You're human. She looked at him for a long time, then smiled sadly. I think being human is exactly what they needed. A heart. A choice. The core pulsed again, stronger this time. The entire cavern began to crumble. Rocks fell, red energy spilling from cracks like molten light. Maylin floated upward, her body surrounded by a red aura. It's merging, she whispered. If I don't stop it, the world will drown in blood. Li Xin reached out. How? What are you going to do? She looked down at him, her voice calm and steady. I'm going to give it a heart. He didn't understand. Not until he saw her press her glowing hand to her chest. The mark flared, spreading light across her entire body. The core responded, pulsing wildly as if in pain or in rebirth. Maylene's voice echoed through the cavern. You were meant to live through us, not replace us. Let the blood remember mercy. There was a flash so bright that it erased everything: sound, sight, time. For one moment, it felt like the world had stopped breathing. When Li Xin opened his eyes, the cavern was silent. The red light was gone. The walls no longer pulsed. The blood core had turned to crystal, cold and still. Maylin lay at its base, motionless, her skin pale but peaceful. The mark on her arm had vanished completely. He ran to her side and knelt. Maylin, he whispered, shaking her gently. Wake up. Her eyes fluttered open, faintly glowing, but human. She smiled weakly. It's quiet now, she said softly. It's sleeping. Li Xin nodded, tears falling freely. You did it. You saved us. She looked toward the now silent heart. No, we saved each other. The ground shuddered again, not in anger this time, but as if the world was taking its first calm breath. The red glow across the earth began to fade. The blood towers across the continents cracked and fell into dust. The skies cleared. For the first time in weeks, sunlight touched the mountains. Li Xin helped Maylin to her feet. Together, they walked out of the cavern, following the faint light ahead. As they emerged from the tunnel, they saw a changed world, peaceful, silent, and strangely alive. The rivers glowed faint blue again. The forests returned to green, and the air was warm and still. On the horizon, a single red spark rose into the sky, not threatening, but beautiful. It drifted upward like a firefly, fading into the morning light. Maylin watched it disappear. They're not gone, she said quietly. Just waiting. Li Xin looked at her. Do you think they'll ever return? She smiled faintly. Maybe. But next time, we'll understand each other. The camera of your story could slowly rise above them, showing the quiet earth bathed in soft dawn light, peaceful again, breathing again. The planet's heartbeat was calm, but far out in the darkness of space, a faint red pulse echoed once more, slow, distant, patient. The story ends with a single line written on the screen. The blood sleeps, but it never forgets.